Hey guys, welcome to my next adventure. Except it's not an adventure today. Today is more of a tutorial. If you want to see the adventure, I have a link to the video below. It's Dining Room Episode 2 where I actually scrape the ceiling. But today we're going to do a tutorial about scraping ceilings.
Hamdyman!
In this tutorial episode, I'm going to be giving you much more detail about scraping ceilings, and it's going to be more heavy on the process and the little nitty-gritty details of what you're going to need to do to scrape the ceiling successfully. Let's get into it. The list is very short of the things that you need to scrape. First thing you need, patching trowel. Second thing you need, ladder. Third thing you need, garden sprayer. The last thing that you might need when you are scraping your ceiling is a hat, long sleeves, a long sleeve shirt. You can use a t-shirt, but your arms are going to get really, really dirty. A pair of pants, long pants, some kind of work boot or work shoe, something that you don't care if it gets dirty. One last thing that you should always remember, safety glasses.
When you fill up your garden sprayer, you can just fill it up with water. It doesn't have to be anything fancy, just good old tap water.
If it's shiny, it's ready to be scraped. When you look at the big wet spot here, you can see that there are a couple of areas that are not as wet. Kind of look at it from an angle so you can see where the wet spots are. Try not to do the whole ceiling at once. Make like a circle or like a square that's about the size of your wingspan. Now, a lot of people think that when you first put the water on, that you need to just scrape it off and it's all gonna come off very, very smooth. I'm sorry to tell you that is not the case. For most places and for most houses that have popcorn ceiling, you're gonna need to scrape 2, 3, sometimes 4 times. But you have to do it in layers. The first layer is just to get in there and scrape off the first part, and I'll show you that in just a sec. Also, the water is going to drip on the floor. Don't worry about it. It's just water. It can wash away. Alright, I take that back. For this house in particular, I was able to scrape off stuff really, really easily. It just falls down in paper form, which is super great. However, my last place, to get that smooth part right there, that took about 3 layers worth of spraying and scraping. When you do that, you want to scrape the first layer and then you want to leave it sit for a second and then keep working on the rest of the ceiling. And then once that dries a little bit, and you'll be able to tell because the moisture hasn't soaked in on the ceiling. Once it's dry, then you can start spraying again in the spots that need a little extra work. I can tell you that this spot right here is going to need another spray, and you spray before you scrape. Never dry scrape, it ruins your drywall.
Notice the ease at which I'm scraping. I'm not putting a ton of effort into this, and you shouldn't either.
Another quick tip, when you're spraying water on the ceiling, what you want to do is you want to make sure that after you're done spraying, you leave it for a couple of minutes. That way the water really just soaks into the ceiling. It really lets all the popcorn ceiling plaster just want to fall down. That way when you scrape, it'll be super easy.
You're scraping the popcorn ceiling yourself. There's no rush here. There's no clock or timer or competition. Have a good time. Take your time. Be patient. Don't put in a ton of effort here. If you mess up, it's fine. You can always come back to it later. You can always fix it.
When you're holding the patching trowel, hold it like you would when you're cutting something and you need to hold it like a knife, like you're cutting a steak. Put your index finger right there, give you good pressure, and then have the rest of your hand like this. That way, when you scrape, it's nice and buttery smooth. And try to keep it as level as possible. Don't put it at like 45 degrees. This is the sweet angle, right there. Finger, hand, angle, scrape. That is the sweet spot.
As I mentioned earlier in the video, when there's a spot that needs to get re-scraped, you just wet it a second time and scrape it a second time. And when you do so, it's going to come off just as easy as the first round of scraping did previously.
Ooh, pretty.
Don't forget to keep on pumping.
Partway through, make sure that this thing stays clean. It scrapes better when it's clean.
I want to talk about corners really quickly. When you put the patching trowel on its side, you can dig into the popcorn ceiling that might be stuck on the corner. That way, when you scrape on the corner, it'll come off much easier the second time around.
Now you might see some products that are like this. That you can scrape on this one and then attach a bag onto this. These things suck. Don't use them.
Just know sometimes you're gonna make mistakes. Sometimes you're even gonna overwater.
What?
If that happens, don't worry about it. You could always just go to a different part of the ceiling and come back to that one later. It's no big deal. On your first go around into a corner with the scraping, you want to try to go perpendicular, that way you can get as much material off as possible. On the second round, you want to go parallel with the corner, that way you don't mess up any of the drywall tape that might be underneath.
Oh, that's so sweet.
All day parallel in the corners, folks. On the second round, all day parallel.
The last thing that you want to do when you're scraping ceiling is the little patches that you might have missed. Just spray it with a little bit of water for a quick rinse and then just scrape it right off. That way your whole ceiling is completely clean when you're done. Hey guys, thanks for watching the gotta get all the laughs out. Hey guys, thanks for watching the latest video from the Adventures of Hamdyman, where we got to scrape our dining room ceiling. Stay tuned because there will be more adventures from